free flows and depth, and let's just speak about it all, because at the end of the day, I like to be super unfiltered, and you do too. And I think that that's what people are looking for these days. They're sick of the fluff. They're sick of the
AI scripting.
Yeah, they're sick of the little sprinkles on top.
So let's get some sharp minds on a couch and just go nuts.
Okay, so what's been happening, Brando?
Just had a chicken wrap. Just had a chicken wrap.
Just had a chicken wrap.
Just had a chicken wrap.
Yep. Protein in.
Protein in.
Okay, you know what I reckon would be a really good topic of discussion is how do you feel like looking after yourself? Because that's something that I notice that you really prioritize in your life. How do you feel like looking after yourself then, you know, affects the rest of like your life, like how you show up online, how you connect with other people, how you show up in your business? Like, how do you feel like that sets this foundation?
Have we started?
Well, yeah, why not? Have we started? Okay, let's start again. All right.
Okay, today we're going to talk about...
Testing.
Testing.
Okay. So how do you want to start it? Are we doing that? G'day, Brendan. How are you today? Did you enjoy your chicken wrap for lunch?
I think today... yeah, I think that's a good topic. Talk about, you know, looking after yourself. Self-care. And what that means to creating influence and helping other people. And
yeah. And how you feel like it really sets you up and sets your foundation for everything that you do in life. Because this is actually a really, huge part of my life and where I initially started in my whole journey in the work that I do today. So, I propose that question to you. How do you feel like, you know, because obviously looking after yourself with quality nutrition, water, sleep, mindset, and movement, how do you feel like that actually impacts the way that you show up in all other areas of your life?
I feel if I didn't have that in my life, I wouldn't be optimal in the way I am on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
I feel like that stuff, implementing that and habit stacking that over time, whether that's you know, looking after my teeth, looking after my skin, looking after my fitness, looking after my body, was always a priority for me, even when I was younger. But it was the other stuff that I was putting in my body and stuff. And once I began to optimize that area, a lot of the clutter, a lot of the disorientated thoughts, a lot of the lack of purpose and all that sort of began to lose its weight because I could think clearer. So, I think looking back, I've got a frog in my throat.
Do you need a hand getting it out? I'll pat you on the back.
Looking back at that, when I was who I was back in the day, and all the cloudy thoughts and all that sort of stuff, I think that did have a massive part to play in what I was putting in my body.
Yeah.
Like the anxiety or the shame and guilt, monkey mind, cluttered thoughts, all that. And I feel now I don't eat anything rather than whole foods really, and maybe like a chicken snitty or something like every now and then. Drink clean water, filtered water, hydrogen-rich water. I look after myself, and most of the things that I put in my body, probably like pre-workout is like, and probably excess coffee is the only thing, but it's fueled my life. Like, gives me the energy, the capabilities to do what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And that goes hand in hand with the capacity I've created around the vision that I want in my life and what I want to actually create.
Yeah.
I think it also demands respect as well. When you look after yourself on a deeper level, I think people respect that because it shows a level of discipline.
And do you think that maybe that respect actually starts with the respect that you start to have for yourself first?
Definitely. I think that radiates out. So anything that you do from internal point, that comes out in your outputs, whether that's negative or whether that's positive.
Correct.
And that's exactly the energy that people feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess what you're putting in your body,
Yeah.
that comes out in your personality, in your discipline, in your...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And that's essentially what the H&B Collective is built off, is these 5 main pillars of health. It's like nutrition, movement, mindset, hydration and sleep, because I feel like without one of those, so they're like the cogs on the wheel, right? So if you're not actually having them all aligned, then they all affect one another. So if you're not sleeping well, then you don't have the energy to go train. Then 9 times out of 10, if you're not sleeping well and you don't have the energy to train, you then reach for high sugary processed foods to give you the energy that you need. So then you're not eating well. And then when you've got no movement, not eating well and no sleep, that drastically affects your mindset and how you show up. And, and 9 times out of 10, people aren't drinking quality water either. And I feel like that is a huge conversation that goes, unsaid a lot of the time, is the chemicals and all of those sorts of stuff in our water that does affect us from a metabolic place and a cellular place. So for myself, that's essentially how the vision of the work that I do comes about. It's like, first and foremost, having that level of self-worth and self-love to nourish your body in a way that makes you feel good, prioritize sleep that allows you to think properly and show up the best version of you, and move your body, because as we move through our life and we end up with experiences, some trauma or wounds or fears or intense situations that may happen, we actually store those experiences in our soma, our body. So we can do all this like mental work and process through that way, but I'm a really big believer in being able to shift that energy from within your body, within your muscles. And I think a journey for me was like having chronic back pain. And there was no real structural issue for it, other than the fact that there was a lot of the trauma that I had from my childhood and the way I constantly was in this fight or flight state, which then held, so much tension, and my central nervous system was completely fried and just on edge all the time. So that's what really brought me into the space of somatic movement and, shifting the energy from within, like your body. And there's been plenty of times where in my own journey with movement, and then you'll be like training, and the next minute you're just like so emotional that you just burst into tears. And there's been many of instances where I've had people within my space that has done the same thing, and it's just like this energy that just is shifted when we move our body. So for me, those 5 main pillars, I just feel like are the starting point for really honoring yourself and really building that self-worth that then helps you level up and show up in different ways in all areas of your life. So I really wanted to open that conversation because I think a lot of people, when they're wanting to better themselves, and this usually most of the time comes after a breakup, and they're just like, the first thing that they want to do is go to the gym or start running or doing these things to better themselves, to look better, and not understand that there's actually like this foundational process that has a deeper meaning and intention that then ends up being a reflection on so many other areas of your life.
And what does that look like?
For someone that's wanting...
That foundational, when people come out of a relationship or whatever it may be, and they just go to run a marathon or get into the gym or whatever it is and go nuts on a diet. What is that foundational stuff that you're saying they miss looks like?
So I guess it's just like they just focus on one thing, and maybe it's just the physical. Maybe they go in and they smash the gym, but they're not really focusing on what food that they're putting in their body to support them. They're not focusing on like the quality of hydration. So like, how are they hydrating their body? Are they ending up with like these tight, wiry muscles and tissue that just is so rigid because they're just so dehydrated? It's like where there's like dehydration and rigidness, there's like, you know, that underlying energy of just like, you know, having something so tight and so dry that it can snap at any point. And that really kind of relates to how they are showing up mentally as well. They're just so rigid, and they're just so like in this process of just focusing on the one thing, that they're not really kind of going, well, how am I actually feeling? First and foremost, like physically in my body, and how am I feeling emotionally and mentally? Like, it's all connected. It's like this beautiful ecosystem, if you want to say, that sometimes gets missed and just focused on one point, like the movement. And then they're not nourishing themselves, and they're not sleeping well, and they're, you know, they might be up of all hours of the night because they can't sleep because their mindset's running and the monkey mind's taking over, and there's all these different things that is actually running the show. But because they don't want to stop for a minute and actually look at everything, the dissociation pattern is running the marathon or bodybuilding or just being that driven and focused on that one thing, that it's like it can be just as much as a dissociation pattern as going out and constantly drinking or taking drugs or gambling or doing any of those other addictive patterns. That can also be the same if you're not conscious to what else is happening and how the foundation is actually being laid, because you just get to a certain point and your body starts breaking down. And that's when I think maybe the medicine comes in as well.
Definitely. I'm a big I'm a big believer of well, I'm not a believer. I know it's true. It's a philosophy of when movement happens, emotion can flow.
Yeah.
So emotion, so motion in flow.
Yep.
And I remember when there was a time in my life where I've always been active, but I've never let those emotions flow through like energy release or anything like that. Part of the work that you do is pretty cool when the somatic release and stuff like that. It was something that I would have thought in the past was like taboo or weird or
woo-woo
or looked at and go, what the fuck are these people doing? Sort of set up. But now that I actually understand it on this somewhat spiritual level and what it actually means for energy release and flow and emotion, what has that part done for your life and the movement sort of side of things, and, you know, the way that you look after your body?
Oh, it's been massive. And I think, like I said before, having chronic back pain, which actually really debilitated me at one point, and I could hardly even walk. So training for me was nearly like non-existent. I really had to lean into that because I knew how powerful that work was. And the reason why I knew how powerful that work was is a family member of mine actually had, he'd gone away and done a special forces situation, and the amount of built up adrenaline that he held in his body and that he'd stored in his body was creating this like chronic pain in his body. And he started seeing a therapist in down south, and she started doing some work on him, and some of it was like trigger point therapy and stuff like that. And his body had such an incredible response that in that moment was when it all landed for me. So he left the therapy session and he was walking around the local park nearby, and he just had this urge to just run. And so he was just like running and running and running, and he just could not actually physically stop his body from running. And so he was freaking out because he was getting towards the road, and he's like, I physically cannot stop my body from running. So he threw himself on the ground, and his body went into this like full like convulsion, almost like he was having a fit, but he was conscious. And this lady ran over who happened to be a nurse, and she was like talking to him, and he was like, you know, conscious, and he was telling her everything, and he said, I need you to ring this lady who was his therapist. And she jumped on the phone with the nurse and just said, just wait with him, I'll be there soon. And it wasn't something that was new to her. She'd seen it before within her practice. But basically what had happened is he had that much stored adrenaline in his body, because when he was doing this special services situation, he was in an intense environment where he was mic'd up, camera'd up, and in a dangerous situation where he had to withhold all his adrenaline and because if they smelt that he was like sus or anything like that, then he could have been shot dead on the spot, right? So he stored all this adrenaline in his body, which then ended up being chronic pain. And when he was having these sessions and she was doing this somatic release, his whole body was like literally in these spasms. And that point to me was when I realized that emotional experience that he had at that point in time, the fear and, the adrenaline that he suppressed and then that was then stored in his body, had nowhere to go, which then created the chronic pain. And then when he started having it released, it wasn't the first time that it happened to him. He had to actually stay back after each session that he had, because his body would go into these almost fits, just because it was this huge energetic release that was taking place. So for me, I then was like, wow, that is like so extremely powerful. And then when I had my own situation, I started to understand more about the psoas muscle and different parts of my body, and I started to do that somatic work, and I was doing it on myself and helping heal my own body. And then I was also moving people through energetic work with the massage, having them on my table and massaging them, and also Zen Tai Shiatsu. And that became a really big passion for me, like to help people, hold the space for people to be able to move through and shift that energy out of their body. So somatic is huge, and I feel like it has a massive, our emotions are stored within our body, and when we can have them, somatically released as well, is so powerful. And like that can be done through breath work, can be done through ecstatic dance, it can be done through body work. There's so many different ways that it can be done, but I do think it is powerful.
Yeah, I think there's so much new evidence and research and stuff coming around about somatics and its effect on the nervous system, top down, bottom up regulation and stuff like that. Yeah. I think it's going to be pretty prominent across a lot of clinicians and coaches and stuff in the future to come.
Yeah.
As we move into that frame of a lot of people being dysregulated or disorientated, AI, computers, screens, fast-paced environments, all of that sort of stuff. So it's interesting to grab your take on that.
Yeah, and I feel like in this day and age now, touch is something that doesn't happen very often. And, it's even what I've noticed being part of Zen Tai and that space as a whole, even holding women in Zen Tai, I've had them say to me before, I've never been held like that before without an expectation in return. And to me, I was just like, wow, like we have really been...
Is that from a man or from...
Yeah, they were referring even to in an intimate setting. They had never been held where they could just completely surrender and be themselves and be held in a safe space where they didn't have to give in return.
Yeah, so not transactional or not conditional, completely unconditional.
And also men being held in that space and not having to perform.
Yeah.
So it's really deep, powerful work, and it's just so beautiful to actually witness somebody in their true essence, because there's no need to perform. They can fully, completely surrender. And of course, you've got to create a safe environment for that. And that is so important, is creating that safe environment that they feel like they can do that. And I just think that there's so much in that area that as humans, we still need to explore, because sometimes it can be, I'm a touch person. I think we spoke about this before in love languages. You said your physical touch is one of your love languages. And although it's not my highest love language, I am the type of person that loves to give people hugs, you know, and some people are just like, whoa, they don't, you know, touch to them is weird, or it's like almost like you only touch if there's a level of intimacy. And as humans, we've just stopped touching, and touch is, I believe, is the biggest healer, you know?
Yeah, what is there something about 90 second hug or something like that?
Yes,
It's,
that changes the...
it changes the chemistry of your whole biology or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually read something about that. It's really powerful. I can't remember where I read it, but it was like no one hugs anymore. Like there's no connection without transaction or anything like that.
Yeah, there's almost like this expectation that when you move into that space that the female has to give and the male has to perform.
What do you think? What do you think brought that on? What do you think we're in a world right now where that is so prevalent? Because when you talk about that, like for a long time, like a lot of the way that I would speak to a woman or talk to a woman would be like, you know, to have a sexual need met, or you know, talk to a woman so I could connect with her in a sexual way.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that. Like connection is a little bit more deeper than that when you speak about that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of men out there who wouldn't actually realise that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And, you know, being in that space, and even myself being held in a Zen Tai Shiatsu session, and the only reason why I keep bringing that up is because that's the space where I've experienced it, but being held by a man in the Zen Tai and receiving Zen Tai Shiatsu from a man, it is like the most beautiful thing, because he is literally just there to respect and be of service in a way that is safe and in this sacred space where he's not expecting anything, he's not performing, and she doesn't have to give, and she just receives. So it is just such potent medicine, and I feel like that's completely changed a really big part of me as well in the way that I connect with people. So connection is huge for me, and it's so super important, and I value connection so much, and it's like when you receive that deep connection with someone, it doesn't even have to be intimate, but it's just you really see someone, you really see them, you really hear them, and you're only there to see them and hear them, and there's no expectation of anything in return. And holding that space for someone and being there truly present with someone is the most powerful gift that you can ever give them. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I've been in plenty of situations where you've caught up with a friend and you're chatting, and while you're chatting to them, they're on their phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's common. It's all the time now. And, you know, like it's almost like it's become so normal that you just overlook it.
I quite often think about that when I'm with my dad.
Yeah.
And it comes to my mind when we're out for breakfast or something like that, and you know, I just want to take a photo of the beach and quickly upload it to my stories or something like that. It's like, fuck, just wait.
Yeah.
My dad's probably thinking, who the fuck is this? Like, you know what I mean? Like, even like...
And he doesn't feel valued because he's just like, your attention is elsewhere. And there's a part of him that doesn't feel truly seen and valued in that moment. And the biggest gift that you can give him is your full presence and like actually hearing him when he speaks about how he feels or what's going on for him in his life, and hearing him and just like being in, without having to give him an answer, without having to try and fix the situation, without having to, I guess, do anything other than just listen and be there. You know, I think that's a really big tool that is so important and so missed in today's society.
It somewhat seems like we're in a rush to get nowhere through our phone screen.
Correct.
When we're missing the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
to get nowhere. I love that because, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, hang on a second. I'll talk to you in a second. Like,
Yeah.
what is happening like there? Like, yeah, that's funny because I feel like there's like, I wouldn't say I'm addicted. Like, obviously I work online and that, but I give myself a lot of time off my phone.
Yeah.
It was something that I never actually understood until I felt it. It was like, oh, I feel a little bit like out of touch, a little bit wacky, been looking at my phone for too long.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was getting caught in that distraction of your phone. But yeah.
And I feel like that also creates this brain fog because we're on our phones and our brain is just taking in so much data because we're scrolling and it's just like data and it's just taking it on so much. And then we get to like, you know, and everything just seems foggy and it's like, what was I doing next? And it's just like, we're so overloaded with information that we've just gotten to a point where we're just constantly digitally fatigued. And there was something that I was listening to, which I was just like, wow, that is just crazy. And they were talking about the next epidemic being digital dementia.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, I can actually see
it is programming our
how that's
minds.
100%. And, you know, I think even coming back, what really brought me into that space of presence is when I had my last two children and, you know, even being in that space, breastfeeding, I would be on my phone and it was like they're this human that's just attached to you and just having this experience and they're staring at you. They literally stare at you while you feed them. It's like they're like, thank you, mum, you know, like they're so in tune. And then here you are on the phone just totally disconnected to them. And then, you know, like I just remember one day, like this tiny little baby just like whacking the phone out of my hand and it hit the floor and I was just like...
A sign from God or something.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I was like, holy. And it wasn't as if he was old enough to even fathom what was even going on. But for me, that was just that complete moment where I was like, something so incredibly beautiful is happening right in front of me that I will never get back. And I'm too busy here, going nowhere, right? Yeah. So that was a really powerful lesson for me on presence and, you know, just being fully in the moment. And so to me, and still I'm not perfect, I still reach for the phone because it's that dopamine that we're just so used to having as a stimulation that I really try now that when I connect with someone, I'll just completely put my phone away and just give them my full presence and really hear them and where they're at because that's the biggest gift you have in any moment either. I like the same because, you know, like whilst you're talking to me and you're sharing with me what's on your heart or your vision or your mission or your wisdom or your knowledge, if I'm not present, I miss so much value. You know what I mean? But then, you know, like if I'm here and present, like I can just absorb so much from that. And yeah, if whatever lands for me, I can choose to either implement into my life or just go, Brandon's a cool dude and he rocks and just move on.
I actually listened to, I actually done some research not too long ago. I listened to a podcast and then done some research after it. I just love doing this sort of stuff. It was around the 4 types of psychology that they actually use in the social media algorithms and how it works to keep us drawn in, to keep us wanting that dopamine release and keep coming back for more and more and more, and how people actually get addicted. So they use the 4 most powerful psychological tools through their social media algorithms to actually draw the viewer back in. And they're the same psychology that's used in poker machines and gambling.
Yeah.
And when I seen that, I was like, wow, that's pretty fucking crazy.
That's
like
insane.
you have these corporations making trillions and trillions of dollars off the people who are completely glued to their phone.
Yeah.
And they've literally set it up with psychological warfare in a sense to keep you on your phone. And people just...
So then you're disconnected, you're distracted.
Yeah.
You know, it's tearing families apart. It's, you know, keeping people just so dissociated from themselves and then they're easily controlled.
Yeah. I actually forget what the 4 types of psychological stuff that they use are, the tools that they use. But that's exactly what it is. And then if you go a little bit deeper into that, it is literally genuinely programmed for us to be disconnected from the real world and be controlled by something else.
Disconnected from ourselves, because when we're connected to ourselves, we're far more powerful. We can make informed decisions of ourselves, and we're not just being led by, you know, the media and what they're telling us. You know, we can actually go and have critical thinking for ourselves and be like, well, hey, this doesn't sound right, you know, and have the ability to be able to ask the questions instead of just following what we're being told, you know what I mean? And I think that with the pandemic, that really brought that to the awareness for a lot of people. It's like how distracted and how dissociated you are from yourself is when you either choose to just do as you're told or have the ability to, really
make a decision
for your own self.
I'm just getting that up now.
So you're just being distracted right now? No.
So they call it a variable reward system, so a dopamine loop.
Wow.
So basically it draws you in and keeps you in a dopamine loop, so you want to continue scrolling even though you might have not even found any value or remembered what the last thing was beyond the last thing and the last thing and the last thing. It keeps you there.
Yeah.
So it's like those cheap hits of dopamine.
Yeah.
And I was reading deeper into it, and what that actually does for the dopamine reward system is it expects you to go and chase cheap hits of dopamine.
Yes.
And
everywhere else.
Yeah, and then you don't get them from the things that actually benefit your life.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're constantly in that loop. Crazy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they start as young as children with the TV shows.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then it turns into devices. And then once the kids are on devices at such a young age, like they have iPads in schools now. And, you know, my kids will be like, oh, Mum, can I go watch the TV or can I do that? And I've, from how I parented my first 3 children to how I'm parenting these next 2 is completely different because I understand all of this. And I understand that when they're getting these constant hits of dopamine when they're little, then they look for that in other things in life. So whether it's drugs, sex, gambling, drinking, fitness, you know, like whatever that is for them, they're constantly looking for the next dopamine hit. And then there becomes a dysregulation.
Yeah. Yeah. Like a nervous system level, like just completely fried. Yeah. Constantly in that.
And then there's what's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Then there becomes that problem.
Yeah. And I feel like even without the social media side of it, people are disconnected, like internally at a lot of people, you know, with reaction, dysregulated sort of lifestyles or whatever.
Yeah.
The escape, the avoidance and stuff like that. And then social media is there that gives you that reward system to get away from that.
Yeah.
And then it amplifies the problem. Yeah.
And it does. It amplifies the problem because, you know, you're not paying the attention that you need to within your relationship because you can't even give the attention to yourself. So therefore, you just want the escape, like you said. So it's easier to go to social media that gives you validation. It like I actually listened to this podcast once, and the lady that was actually speaking about it was talking about how one of her clients who had a marriage and everything like that had created a AI partner or, you know, robot or whatever, and he was in the science sort of space, and he actually created this robot version of a partner that he could connect with and get his sexual needs met. And I'm just like, am I really listening to this?
Talking to it.
Yeah. It's like he's created it through this AI, but then it's like this robot thing. This is in America. And I was just like, is this really where we're going? Is this really what's happening? And I think also too, with AI and ChatGPT and all that sort of stuff, it's like people are now using that as like this tool to validate their behaviors, or to it's almost like it gets to know them so well that it's just sort of like, yeah, you know, you're not the one in the wrong, and this, you know, like they're using it as those tools, and it's almost like it is having a really detrimental effect.
This is crazy that you bring that up. I actually listened to something yesterday, and do you know Russell Brunson?
Yeah.
Russell Brunson was talking into it, and he was saying that AI is moving that fast, and people are programming it, but what it's actually doing is you can ask it a question, and what it does is it does a deep dive into the internet. It'll look at everything from the dummies and the gurus, and it won't depict between either of them. So it just makes up something jumbled in between them and spits that out as truth.
Yeah.
So at the moment, people are using AI to build businesses, to speak on their channels, all of that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But the information that they're being given from the source itself, or AI or whatever, for content isn't truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you were saying that, I was like, wow, that's fucking crazy. Because you can have some idiot who just makes up things and puts them into the algorithm, or does like a document or something like that and puts it online. And AI is at a point right now where it's moving so fast, but it doesn't actually know how to depict between the two.
Decipher, yeah.
Yeah, decipher good and bad information.
Yeah.
So she's spitting out everyone, whatever.
Yeah. And it's always in the perception of how the viewer wants to see it anyway.
Yeah.
So regardless of what it spits out, it's just like, you know, if it's great and it's what they want to hear, and they will receive it and they'll take it and they'll use it. But then there's also, if they don't want to, they'll just say it however they want it to, and that's going to spit back what they need anyway. So it's like, yeah, in the eye of the beholder. So you're going to get what you're searching for anyway. So that's how I kind of see it. And yeah, I think that it can be a really incredible tool, and I think it's extremely detrimental as well at the same time.
Yeah.
So it depends, again, it comes back to the individual and how connected they are to themselves, and how, you know, that they know themselves to a point where they're not being overcome and ruled by this new way of technology. And it's like, are they so addicted to it that they can't put their phone away for a period of time? I remember when my kids were teenagers, and I would literally have to like grab their phone and hide it in order to get them to actually even function in their life. You know what I mean? They were just so obsessed and so addicted to it. It was like you had removed their right arm. It was insane.
How do you differentiate between that as a parent today? Like, the world is moving in that direction. How do you differentiate between the old ways, which, to be honest, there's not much of that left, I don't think.
No.
But how do you differentiate between actually allowing your kids to go in the direction of the world, or it's a touchy subject because I can't even word it.
Yeah.
I feel like the world's been divided into like different avenues right now, but with AI and stuff like that being like the massive talking point, the biggest revolution in human history, the biggest money maker, it's going to be like take jobs, all of that. How do you differentiate from hiding that from your kids and putting it in front of them so they can actually understand it?
I think it comes down to education and really teaching your children about the both sides of it, and just, you know, this is how it can be really beneficial and this is how it can be really destructive. And, you know, I've been able to have that conversation with my older children, and they understand at times where they have to take themselves off and delete social media apps off their phone just because they know that it's actually controlling a part of their life. So I have very beautiful open conversations with my children about everything, because realistically when I was raising my children, I was growing up with all of this happening right in front of me, and I was in it and addicted to it, and I was in that whole thing as well. So because it was all new, it was all just moving at such a fast pace that it was just like, I'm back in the day where we had dial-up, and you know, you get disconnected from if the phone rang. So, you know, like that, you know, I talk to them about that. This is what it was like when we were growing up, and my older kids say, you know what, Mum, I actually wish now was like it was back then, because they know, they can see how they're being so controlled and addicted to these devices. So yeah, I feel like it's education. It's up to me as their mother to educate them on where we are in the world right now. And I feel like education is key. It's medicine. It's like, okay, well, the more you know, the more choices that you have, and the more, decisions you can make.
With education, like, so funny. Do you know what I had? I had this vision when I was younger, and I used to come home from school, and I used to have, like, I don't know, someone be on the internet, and I'd pick up the home phone, and I'd go to call a mate, and there'd be the fucking broadband noise, and I'd lose it. Shannon, get off the fucking internet.
Yeah. Or you'd be playing a game, and then the phone would ring, and then your sibling would grab it, and they'd be on their phone to their mate, and you're like, get off the phone.
I'm on MSN.
Yeah.
But with that, like, I feel like there's two different parts of the debate right now where people are completely staying away from AI because they believe that it's going to be an AI generated world, and we're going to be under control and all that. And then I believe that there's another side of it which are fully taking advantage of it. Like, I've been able to build a whole front and back end system in my business, a whole program in the space of fucking, a couple of months. And now I'm making constant revenue from that.
Yeah.
What path do you see?
It's consciousness, because the thing is that that's a tool that you can make that's going to give you more time to be more present in your life. And that's where the power of AI is. I think that, with people going, oh, jobs are going to be taken. And I'm like, isn't that, we were put on this planet to live an experience. And most people are tied to their job 24/7. Or they're in their 9 hours a day sitting at a desk, and then they come home, they're that wrecked, they don't even have the capacity to go and move their body or train. They eat shit, they usually consume alcohol, they sit in front of a TV, they've got no connection with their kids and no connection with their partner. That's majority of the population right now, right? And it's sort of like, well, if your job gets replaced tomorrow, how much more present does that allow you to be in your life? If you learn it.
If you learn how to,
So it can be a really powerful tool, exactly like you've explained, like you've used it to build these systems that allow you to be more present in life. And now look at the work that you're doing. You're face to face with men. And yes, you're using Zoom and those types of tools, because that's the beauty of AI these days. You can connect to someone in America and change someone else's life.
Oh, I work with a guy in Zimbabwe.
Exactly. So this is the power of it as well, but then it's the consciousness that goes with it. If you are so unconscious and you're so caught up in living in this AI world, then you're lost, you're apart. You've just been absorbed into the system.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go, that's a friggin' cool tool, it's going to allow me to do this, this, and this, which then allows me to be more present with my children, my husband, my wife, my friends, and it allows me to live my life, because now I've got a paycheck that's happening in the background because of the systems I built through this platform.
Yeah. I had this conversation. I like to see if my dad understands stuff, and he's so funny. My dad's 70 next month, and I asked him yesterday, I was on the couch at their place, so I stopped past there on the way. I was on a run, and I stopped past there, I had a glass of water and whatnot, and I was just talking to my dad, and I said, do you understand what I'm doing? And he said, oh, dribs and drabs, mate. I said, oh, come sit down. And he sat down next to me, and I showed him my phone. And I've just built out like a whole school community and stuff like that. And he understands that I'm working fucking tirelessly.
Yeah.
When I was living at their place for 6 months, when I got back from overseas, I was constantly in my room. I was constantly in like grind mode. Whether that's a healthy thing or not, I see it as I've just spent 15 years of my life partying and wasting my time. Now it's time to get to fucking work. Like the women, everything can wait. And he hasn't understood it.
Yeah.
Why I work so hard. And I showed him the system, and then I calculated some numbers with him of what I want to be in the next 12 months. And he just looked at me and said, fuck. Like, he got it.
Yeah,
and I showed him a school system that I built that's going to run on autopilot in the background. And then I run an 8-week program for 8 men, 8 times a year. I showed him the figures and he was like, fuck. Like, that's what you're building. And I'm like, this is like a revolution. Like, we can create something way bigger than we've ever been able to in a 10th or a 100th of the time frame.
Absolutely.
And then we can focus on other areas of our life because that's optimized over there. It's being worked on by automation that is no longer for humans. We don't pay humans to do it.
That's right.
We pay a subscription for platforms to do it for us.
Yeah.
And then we buy back our time and we keep learning. We keep doing things for non-profit or whatever it may be. Yeah. And then it just becomes this massive machine. I see it clear as day.
Yeah.
And I just knew that my dad didn't totally understand. So I showed him and his eyes lit up and he's like, wow. He's like, that's fucking real. And he understood it.
So incredible.
Yeah.
That he's even open to looking at it. You know what I mean? And because, you know, old school is like, you work your ass off. You pay off your house. You do this, you do that. And then so this whole new concept of online, people just think, oh, when are you going to go get a real job? You know what I mean?
I heard that the first couple of months.
Yeah.
I heard that a fair bit in my first year. And it fucking grinded my gears because I felt the pull, I felt my soul and all that. But people, and I just, you know, I want it to work now. I want it to work now. And, yeah.
And it is all still a process. You know, everything is just still a process. I mean, how many hours have you invested to learning?
Thousands.
Exactly. But yours is scalable now. And this is where I see the difference is within what you can do in an online space as opposed to what I can do in a PT room. Okay? My time isn't scalable in there. It's like face-to-face, hour by hour. Whereas online, you got one-to-many.
Yeah.
And you've got a whole system that's going to support as many people as you want and the capacity that you can hold and transform so many people's lives, and that's where the power is.
Yeah.
And it's just it's smart, it's effective, especially if it's done correctly and consciously and not done by ego and just fake bullshit. But I think a lot of people can feel the fakeness of stuff these days, whereas when yourself and like myself and you can show up online authentically and we can talk about, you know, our experience in life, because at the end of the day, our experiences are so relatable to so many others. And when we can show up and we can say, this is what my life looked like, this is what I've done, and this is where I am now. That's like really relatable, and people actually want real stuff these days.
And you're giving people permission to succeed who came from the exact same time where you were when you thought that you never would.
Yeah.
I think that's like the coolest thing about the wisdom that you get from the events that have happened in your life. It's like you fucking have so much power to help other people.
You do.
See the light in himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like I just feel like people are waiting to have some form of certificate to be able to share their experiences and their wisdom. And I read this book once and I can't remember what it was called, but a part of the book was that, you know, he was talking about his dad being an alcoholic and how his dad had gone to AA meetings and had gone and gone and seen psychologists and all that sort of stuff to help him with his alcoholism. And it was at the point where his mum was going to leave his dad and his dad was going to lose the whole family. And his dad went out one night and he was walking down this alleyway and he ran into this man and he had this conversation with this man. And the man was an ex-alcoholic and he spoke about how he got sober. And from that day on, he got sober and didn't touch another drop of alcohol. And he said, you know, at what point did that man feel like he could have that conversation with my dad, not being a certified psychologist or anything, like he didn't have to be anything. It was just a relatable conversation that he looked at him and said, well, if he can do it, so can I. And that's where I feel the power is in true stories and true life lived experience that has way more power to transform lives than a textbook.
And would you say that authentic connection is a massive part of that? Because
100%.
I see a lot of a few, probably a handful of social media influencers that I follow come from very bad drug infected backgrounds, and they've pulled through, and now they're creating like fun runs and stuff down on the Gold Coast and wherever it is, and people are flocking. They got like 200 people who come from drug affected backgrounds. Community and connection speaks.
It's huge.
It's fucking massive, and they don't want us to be involved in that. They want us to be isolated and dealing with our shit alone. So that's just proof, yeah.
And that's the proof of when you are seen, heard, loved, without judgment, transformation can occur.
Definitely.
Because you're safe.
No shame, no guilt, in a room of people who feel the exact same way, and or even one person, man to man, woman to man, woman to woman, whatever it is. If you have that, sometimes I feel like even when I was younger, I had that. I'd go to a psychologist or whatever, but I didn't have that. I couldn't feel that connection.
That's right.
There was the resistance in the middle because I was looking at him like, this guy's in a suit. Like, he hasn't
experienced what I've experienced, so how can he tell me how to get through it?
Yeah.
That's exactly
right. And I feel
right.
like connection and community through that aspect, don't get me wrong, that sort of stuff has its place, but I feel like that is the strongest form of anything today.
I totally agree. And I think where there's a willingness, there's power to transform anything. And if someone's coming into a space and wanting change, that's the first step. There's that willingness there, and I hear it time and time again. You know, I've had people actually come in and work with me and say, you know, and this is not to blow my own trumpet or anything like that. I hardly ever speak about what I do and how I, you know, the benefits of what I've done with people. But, you know, I've had people come in and say, I get more out of working with you than I have done the last 10 years with my psychologist. And that to me is just like, that raises a lot of questions for me. It's just like, you know, one, maybe you should have not waited 10 years to stay with the same person. You know, should there be you know, if you feel like you're getting nowhere with it, why not
try something
else? You know, and I'm not saying a bad word to psychologists, but what I'm saying is it's, like you said, it's relatability, it's connection. And if they feel that, if they look at you and they go, well, this is what has happened in her life and this is how she's transformed herself, and well, maybe, just maybe, she's got some tools that I could use.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Feel the same?
Yeah.
From men that I've worked with?
Yeah.
Saying that they've been through, you know, the ringer here, the ringer there, been through this, been through that, and, you know, they've come through my program and they've had breakthroughs. And it's
massive
like, well,
breakthroughs.
that's the work. And I think a lot of it comes from an energy. Yeah. I feel like energy alone can point someone in the right direction. If they feel that, and, you know, the tools that you're giving them, they're just, there's something about energy in the right environment with the right tools and the you know, accountability that creates adaptability towards something else.
Well friggin' said.
Yeah.
I think you need to crop that bit that you just said and put it on loudspeaker because that was just absolutely perfect.
Sometimes I don't even feel like it's me speaking.
It's channeled, totally. It's just both of us are just like, but yes, I totally agree with that. 1000%.
Yeah.
Because it's about them being accountable to themselves and really having some like tools that they can embody and adapt immediately into their life. So it's not like they've got to get there and they don't know how to get there. It's like, that's all well and good, but how do you take the first step? So what does that look like? And I feel like when you've been in it and you've done it yourself, it's easy. It's like a map. You can just go, this is the map, brother. Like this is how I did it. And yeah, and because it has been a process you've walked, there's so much passion and conviction in the process.
Yeah, I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you create evidence for yourself. So there's like you build that trust, that belief in yourself. So the evidence stack to actually say that you can get through anything, you know, because you put yourself in the rooms or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
1000%. Whew. This has been an epic conversation.
Yeah.
I love it.
Free flow is where it's at, I reckon.
Free flows and depth, and let's just speak about it all, because at the end of the day, I like to be super unfiltered, and you do too. And I think that that's what people are looking for these days. They're sick of the fluff. They're sick of the
AI scripting.
Yeah, they're sick of the little sprinkles on top.
So let's get some sharp minds on a couch and just go nuts. Yeah. Speak what we feel.
Here for it. And if you're loving, you know, what we're dropping and what we're putting down, you know, just keep letting us know if there's a subject that you'd love us to talk about and share our insights on. Then we'd be really open to hear that as well. But this is where we're at, talking about the real stuff, talking about depth, connection, intimacy, you know, community. It's all here, what we're here for. So yeah, thanks for the mad chats. And
just one last question. I want to ask, where do you think the world's going to be at in 2 years' time? Actually, where do you think the world's going to be at in 12 months' time?
I would like to believe, from my cup being half full all the time. I'm a you know, cup is full, because half is full of water, the other half is full of air. I really hope and trust that there's going to be a huge shift in the collective energy of people doing the work and coming inward and realizing that I just feel energetically there's this big shift that's happening in humanity, and it's just, you'll have the people that are just going to elevate. They're going to be pulled into these communities and collectives that they didn't even know were available, and then next minute they're landing in these rooms and they're just elevating. And I just feel like that's just divine alignment, and the ones that are ready are coming, and the ones that aren't, and that's okay too. Like, it's just, you know, wherever we're at. But I feel like there's a huge energetic shift.
Yeah, cool.
What about you?
Yeah, I feel like we're all just moving into our own little